Hello everyone, my name is Rebair. Today's video is related to Final Fantasy VII Remake and the problem with the Arbiters of Fate, or the Whisperers, or what I like to call them, the time-traveling penis druids. So everyone, I wanted to start this video by mentioning that I'm going to separate this video into a few topics. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the involvement of the Arbiters of Fate at the beginning of the game. We of course saw them first in the trailers leading up to the Final Fantasy VII Remake. They were quite heavily featured, I have to say, and the fan base was rightly worried. But in my opinion, at the beginning of the game, they were not that annoying. We encountered them relatively early on. They make their presence felt, but they didn't really distract you that much from the original story. So it was kind of okay with the amount of screen time that they got, because yeah, it was a building up phase for them, and they didn't really prevent you from anything you wanted to do item wise or getting anywhere, and also not story wise. So from that point of view, they were actually acceptable in my opinion. So let's get onto a touchy subject, which would be the involvement of the Arbiters of Fate at the end of the game and in the final battle. Square Enix really went overboard with the involvement of those creatures at the end of the game in the last few chapters, and especially in the final fight. They were a really prominent presence, and I felt they killed my immersion, because they heavily got involved in the original story, and I wasn't the biggest fan of the boss fight you had against this big Arbiter of Fate creature and its three minions, which seem to be the three dudes from Advent Children. On a different note, the fight itself was monumental. It looked nice and everything, but it took way too long to get to the actual fight, with this weird sequence where you had to slide through pieces of the street and the surroundings and dodging everything, and then fighting the minions 500,000 times with 10,000 cuts and everything. It was kind of getting annoying at some point, but I understand what Square Enix wanted to do. They wanted to give you some kind of epic battle at the end of the game, but it was all a bit too much for me. And before that, their involvement, it was crazy. I hope to God they don't continue this involvement of the Arbiters of Fate in the next parts, even if it's only kept to the end of each part, because otherwise it's gonna get annoying. And yeah, I feel that it would very much be a deviation from the original story if the Arbiters of Fate got involved this heavily in the next parts. As I said at the beginning of the game, the Arbiters of Fate had an involvement that I was fine with, but at the end they really went overboard, so we have to see where this goes. The next thing I wanted to touch upon was actually the physical encounters or fights you had with the Arbiters of Fate throughout the game. As far as I remember, all the fights you had with them were actually just padded on fights that were followed up by the original story progressing as normal. So the fights, yeah, they were there, but they weren't that effective, or didn't have a really great effect on the story itself, which is fine by me. We got that whole thing at the end of the game. But yeah, I can totally see Square Enix heading on more fights with them in the next few parts. Hopefully they will be more meaningful in that regard later on. But yeah, after experiencing what happened at the end of the game, I hope this doesn't continue in the next few parts, but I'm pretty much sure there will be more fights happening with them. What kind of really annoyed me was when they blocked you from doing something, especially when they appeared in the church with Aerith and Reno. There was a nice little materia sitting there on the right side that I couldn't get to because all the Arbiters of Fate were blocking it, and that was kind of a real annoyance because it kinda made me anxious because I thought I couldn't get back there or the material would disappear when I could get back there. So that wasn't a pleasant experience, and I hope Square Enix refrains from doing that in the next few parts, because otherwise, yeah, the immersion is kinda killed if the involvement of them is going to be too heavy, or they prevent you from getting something, because then the fun is sucked out of the whole thing, and that's the last thing that should happen in my opinion. Okay, Ron, let's get to the juicy subjects. Time traveling and alternate timelines and universes. I read a lot of theories about those, and the ending certainly lends itself to do that. I'm kind of on the fence right now. I don't know what I should think about this. We all saw that there's apparently an alternate timeline where Zack is alive, apparently, but nobody really knows how this will play into the next parts. But what is actually pretty much confirmed is that we are going to see a lot more of this stuff happening in the next few parts, and I'm kind of really afraid of that, because I have the fear, and I'm almost sure that Square Enix will not keep this as something that is going to remain as a nuance, and I think it is going to be something that they go overboard with at some point, much like they went overboard with the last boss fight before Sephiroth. Yeah, that is my main fear. I don't know how they can do this in order to reassure the fan base that this is not going to heavily interfere with the main story. They are walking a fine line here, and the only way I can see this actually succeeding is, as I said, is if it doesn't interfere with the original story. It's just something that happens very sporadically as kind of a window into an alternative world, or another universe where different choices are made. If this is the case and it doesn't interfere with the main story, then I can see it working. But if it's happening too often, it can be a real big issue, and yeah, I'm almost positive that this is going to become a very negative thing in the next parts that are going to be released. So I don't know what's going to happen, but I honestly have a bad feeling about this, and the whole thing is just set itself up to escalate even more, because, as you know, everything has to be bigger, brighter, more explosive, and more ridiculous with every new part that is released. So, well, yeah, let's see where this goes, guys. Until then, we can read some more theories about the whole thing on the internet. But I have a bad feeling about this. Really, Square Enix? Really? We are going to open this box of Pandora and have those Arbiters of Fate prevent character deaths? We are really going to do this? They already did this in part 1. And yeah, you can imagine in the parts that are upcoming how this will exponentially increase, question mark, or exclamation mark? Yeah, it's probably going to be an exclamation mark. I'm not a fan of this. As we all know, there is a very important event in Final Fantasy VII that moved the hearts of everyone, even to this day. Yeah, I mean, this is a spoiler video, so I can say it. Aerith dies. But yeah, I think we should set ourselves up for something to happen that we really don't like. They faked us out with Barrett's death. and I can see this happening time and time again with other characters. If it doesn't happen with other characters, or if they're even going so far as to prevent Arif's death, apart from the fact that they could just offer us some DLC where we can play as Arif in case she dies for real and nobody interferes. I don't know what to say. They did something that I think they shouldn't have done, because it could be something they did to see the reaction of the player base, and I think they are very much aware that the player base is very worried about things they have done to the story, and preventing character deaths and faking out deaths of important characters is honestly not the way to go, in my opinion. I think this is something where you can't be nuanced. This is something where you either have to go all out or fail completely, because there is no going back then. And in my opinion, they are going to hurt themselves regardless of what they do. If they are going to continue with this, it can only end badly. I can honestly see how they will continue this without pissing off everyone. There is no way this can be solved in a meaningful way other than not doing it in the next few parts. Please don't do this, it's not fun. It doesn't add anything to the story, and it just makes people angry. Please, no more preventing character deaths, fake out deaths, or anything of that sort. We already have enough of on our hands with alternate timelines, parallel universes, time traveling, and so on. We don't need this, to be honest. At least I don't need it. And yeah, it just makes the whole thing even more convoluted. Let's not go the crazy Kingdom Hearts route, because we already went super crazy at the end of part 1. Let's keep it cool, let's tell the original story, and let's add some nuances to it that will enhance it. Character deaths or playing with them is not one of them. And the last thing I wanted to touch upon was the effect Arbiters of Fate have on the upcoming parts that are going to be released. This is really hard to say. In my opinion, as I mentioned earlier, I think they did some things, Square Enix did some things in part 1, where they actually wanted to gauge the reaction of the fan base, and they are probably going to fix some things in the later parts that are going to be released within the next few years. Yeah, as I said, it's really hard to say. I don't think they will go full bonkers with the Arbiters of Fate, but I can certainly see and also expect missteps to happen in the next few parts. That's just human nature. We all make mistakes. Don't expect the upcoming parts to be perfect. That's not how human works. That's a completely impossible standard to meet. I could excuse some hiccups, but I'm also very worried how the Arbiters of Fate are going to be implemented with other story strings, with other characters that haven't been introduced yet. There are so many important things that are happening in the story, especially later on, where we find out the past of certain characters. I'm especially worried about the Calm flashback, because this is something I still think about to this day. This is a very important part of Final Fantasy, or even video game history, that I don't think should be screwed with. And the Arbiters of Fate, yeah, the way they behaved at the end of part 1 is something I don't want to see happening in the upcoming parts as well. So this is something that remains to be seen. We have to see what Square Enix puts out, interview-wise, trailer-wise, and so on. The next trailer for the upcoming second part is going to be very, very interesting. This will tell us a lot. But yeah, I'm staying alerted about this whole thing, about the Arbiters of Fate and their involvement in the next part. or the next parts, because it's certainly going to be more than one part that is going to be released after this one. So yeah, I don't know how I should feel about this, to be honest with you guys. I don't know how I should feel about this, but let's see. So everyone, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Please leave a comment in the comment section and let me know what you think about the Arbiters of Fate and how they are going to play a part in the next parts of Final Fantasy VII Remake. Leave a like, subscribe to my YouTube channel, hit that notification bell, follow me on Twitch, and see you until next time.